Selling doesn't fail because you're bad at it. It fails because your brain thinks rejection is a threat. Today's guest, Shannon Smith, works with coaches, founders, and sales leaders who know what they offer has value, but freeze in the moment. It's time to reach out, follow up, or ask for that yes. Using neuroscience, not scripts or pressure tactics, Shannon teaches people what they call no pressure, brain based sales, a system that helps people calm their nervous system, stop overthinking, and sell in a way that actually feels human. This conversation is about fear, money, and what happens when your brain finally stops fighting your income. Shannon, welcome to MyFinJourney.
Thank you so much, Mustafa, for that warm welcome. I appreciate you allowing me to come here. It's an honor to be your guest.
Thanks, you're too kind. So Shannon, I wanted to dive right in and really understand how you realized that people are so afraid of sales, how you realized that, your brain treats rejection as a threat. Help us unpack, your life journey and what led you to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I actually started back in undergrad doing door knocking. So sales was always in the forefront. Yeah, selling roofs, siding, and windows. Also sold gym memberships, sold shoes on commission to put myself through school. And so sales has always been a part of my DNA. As I started to get more into college, I found the psychology, the brain really fascinating. But at the time, neuroscience was a little bit beyond me, and technology was not really advanced to start to show some of the connections that we see today. But I did write my thesis on what makes an effective salesperson. So I definitely always had the sales and psychology in my purview. Went through, graduated, started consulting. How do we make these large scale behavior changes? In our sales force so that they can be more effective, so the company's goals can be met, et cetera, et cetera. And then that little, I don't know if maybe you've experienced it, Mustafa, but there was this thing that happened in 2020 called the pandemic, and that sort of stopped everything. And from there, I was able to get into neuroscience. How I got into that is I was not doing well. I had just bought a 65-foot old wooden boat because my partner and I had this grand plan of remodeling it, but he got stuck in Utah remodeling another property. So I was stuck by myself during the pandemic on this old boat that kept breaking down. Systems I did not want to learn. I had no desire to learn about the black water, the heating systems, the generator, all that crap. No thanks. The power kept going off randomly. I'm trying to run my consulting firm, keep my sanity with all of this COVID business happening. So I found myself drinking a lot, not sleeping very well. I found myself ruminating constantly, super anxious. And so I stumbled across a book called The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Deutsch. And that changed my life. From there, I spent a year in research, just consuming neuroscience, peer reviewed scientific journal articles. And what I learned is that, wow, there's a ton of application here. If only somebody could pull this information out of the journal articles and then make it to where people can apply it to their lives. So I started to create a little program. I tried it on myself. It worked. I felt exponentially better about halfway through the tactics that I had created, about 11 at the time. And so I said, wow, if this works on me, maybe it'll work on others. Let's try it. So I found about 30 guinea pigs and put them through the same program. They saw amazing results. One guy said his anxiety dropped down to 90%. Other people wanted to overcome procrastination. Other people, had goals as it related to drinking. So they all saw amazing results, mainly because they were rewiring their own brain. From there, I started helping people in the space of habits and developed a mobile gaming app called Reboot Your Brain that rewires your brain and changes your habits while you play. It's on Apple and Google now. It's kind of a passion project. I haven't put too much energy into it lately, but it's out there. I then shifted back to my initial love, which was sales. Also, I help in leadership as well as when people are enduring toxic bosses. The thing that strings all of those things together is the discipline of neuroscience and the absolute power that we have from just understanding our brain and our prospect's brain or toxic boss's brain that can exponentially improve our lives. And so there's a ton of science that really can be applied to all of these areas by just changing a little bit of the context. So here I am today helping sales teams, solopreneurs be more effective in sales. Also, just launched an agentic AI model that helps to uncover the truth gap the sales reps have so that you can get in front of the issue before it hits your number. So I've always got a lot of things going on, no doubt.
I love that, Shannon. And I feel like you've walked us through this journey, but I don't think we can really appreciate the journey, if that makes sense, Shannon. So I wanted to try to dive a little bit deeper. You said things like rewiring your brain. It made it sound so nice. You alluded to the challenges in COVID. It didn't sound that bad. I want to really understand how bad it was and what rewiring your brain actually looks like. Because sometimes when people talk about growth, it's like, oh, this beautiful unicorn or this beautiful rainbow and everything is so great and it's great to grow. But you don't always see that person like pushing that boulder up a hill trying to grow. So I would really appreciate it, Shannon. Maybe if you could dive a little deeper for us.
Yeah, I mean, like sort of sort of digging into the pain or like the sort of the mindset that I had or like the neurological piece of like what's actually happening in the brain. Do you mean like any one of those or all of those?
I think whatever makes you the most excited. For me, it's all of those,
Okay.
but whatever you're most passionate about or is top of mind for you.
Well, maybe let's just start at the brain, the neuroscience level. So this is called neuroplasticity. Whenever you're able to rewire your brain, we have this amazing ability, each and every one of us, until we're dead. So you can do this until you're dead. The whole you can't teach dogs old tricks thing, that's hogwash. Don't buy that. So you have the ability to create new neural connections in response to your thoughts, learning, experiences. And so it is really important that people understand the level of control they have in their own lives by just really that alone. And just sort of to illustrate this, we've probably all had an experience with someone who drains us, who's very negative. Like everybody's out to get them, and that is their narrative, and that's how they live their life. Conversely, maybe people are going through something really hard, sort of Stephen Colbert is popping to mind because he was doing an interview with Anderson Cooper way in the way back when, and he was talking about losing his son and how, that was, I don't want to, I can't, I'll have to try to paraphrase it. Hopefully I'm pretty spot on, but he was happy, not happy that it happened, but he appreciates the experience because it allowed him to evolve. So no matter what happens in the world, you have a choice as to how you respond to it or react to it. And what you reinforce is generally what you get more of. And that's how you're training your brain each and every day.
Yeah, so let's just jump into it. You were continuing the conversation. You introduced a concept called neuroplasticity. It felt like you were saying anyone can do this, but it doesn't feel like everyone does do this. So can you help bridge that gap for us, Shannon?
First and foremost, it is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It's extremely hard. Like meditation, right? Meditation is simple. You sit there, clear your mind, and try to focus on your breath. Well, very hard to do if you've ever tried it. So that's certainly a huge variable. Another variable is just the education part. So, do people even know that they have the ability to do this? And if I know that I have this ability, how do I do this? How do I know it's working? So that's a piece of it as well. And I will say on average, science shows it takes 66 days to create a new habit. I know that there's fewer instances quoted in various books, but science says 66 days on average. So it's an education of I can do it, but how the heck do I do it? And then I think another variable that's really big right now is that we are in a society where we always have something in front of us. We wake up, many of us just go right to our phones, check our email. It's also a society where the busier you are, the cooler you are. in some circles, not in my circle. But, I'm so busy. I don't have time for anything. Oh my gosh, I had 22 meetings today. Well, great job, Jan. How's that working for you? So we're constantly having people pull at us and, our kids, or am I a good wife? Or am I a good employer? Am I a good daughter? I want to do it all, and I want to start businesses, and I want to volunteer, and oh, what I got to walk my dog too. So we're constantly being pulled in all kinds of different directions, and it doesn't allow us to have the ability to sit with ourselves, to be quiet, to really understand how to work through this because we have way too many distractions. I mean, my Instagram feed are elephants, dogs, some spiritual stuff, and some funny things. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of links it back to you can choose your own algorithm. It's kind of like your brain, actually. So, you can choose how your brain algorithm works, just like your Instagram feed.
I love that, Shannon, because it also talks to a bit of intentionality, right? We might live in a world where being busy is cool. So the minute you call that out, you wonder, hey, do I want to be busy? Do I care if I'm perceived as cool? Or do I just want to live a cool, fun life that resonates with my values? And I guess maybe most people don't simplify these things or slow down enough to really think about it. So one of the things, Shannon, you've also mentioned in the past is about the amygdala and how it hijacks sales conversations. I'm curious to understand how that shows up in real world behavior, something like ghosting, overthinking, procrastination, and maybe alluded to some of those clients that you've helped.
Well, so the amygdala has a lot of various functions. So, but what I think it's probably most known for is the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And we are constantly scanning for threats. In fact, our body responds 200 milliseconds before we're even conscious of a threat because it's always scanning. That's its job to keep us safe. But the problem is that whenever the amygdala is active, there's a lot of emotional reactivity. That's where, the snapping or the freezing or what have you may come into play. Now that's for you on the prospect side. They're thinking, what does this person want? What are they trying to sell me? So they are, especially on LinkedIn, you start getting some of those pitch slaps and you're like, what do you want? Because why else are you contacting me out of the blue? And so you've got to break past that barrier to start to establish a relationship, a connection, so that you can have a conversation that is authentic, that's going to serve the client ultimately. Because, just to go back a second, in sales, your job is to find a solution that solves a problem for your client. And if you don't have that solution, then you shouldn't be in their inboxes at all. Now, maybe you have to find out if they're having that problem first, which so many people miss. But if you cannot help them with a problem legitimately, you shouldn't really be in their DMs unless you're wanting to say, hey, cool post, or I really like the tuxedo you're wearing in your profile picture because that's unusual. So you should be solving a problem. But a lot of times from the prospect side, that amygdala is going to be on high alert, and you may not even get past the initial conversation if the sequence is not worded properly to where you can start to break through the reticulating activating system, that RAS filter. Because, speaking of this world we're in, LinkedIn is also a very busy place where you've got to constantly break through in order to get that attention that you're seeking from your prospect.
I love that, Shannon. I think it's very interesting. I want to unpack this, what you're talking about on LinkedIn. First of all, do you sell any services on LinkedIn?
I do. So I help the solopreneur type be more effective in sales with a brain-based sales system. I help sales teams be more effective at sales. I also have a agentic AI model that uncovers the truth gap with your sales reps before it hits your number. So yes, you could say that I sell a few things.
Awesome. And let's say you're not a solopreneur or you're not in
Mhm.
sales. What could some of these products help you uncover? How could you take one of these services and grow and monetize off of the knowledge that you're educating people with?
So if they're not a solopreneur, if they're not in sales, how can what I'm selling help them? Or
Like
sorry, what
let's
was your
say
question?
yeah, let's say they're a founder. If they're a founder, they would not think they're in sales. I would say they are. but they would not think they're in
Okay.
sales. So it would completely be over their head potentially. Or let's say they're married and they want to be able to effectively communicate with their spouse. They would not think they're in sales. I would say you are. You're selling your wife on the fact that you love her, or your spouse on the fact that you love her. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. People should feel loved. There are multiple love languages, etc. For me, sales can feel like a dirty word, but that's just maybe how it's perceived and how it's pitched to us. But fundamentally, if you stopped calling it sales and you started calling it effective communication, who doesn't want to communicate effectively, right? I want to communicate that I'm a nice guy. I'm selling you that I'm a nice guy. So, what I'm trying to understand from your perspective, Shannon, is by taking your courses, how can somebody use what you're teaching to make them more efficient in their everyday lives?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they would be more efficient in their everyday lives, but I mean, let me just sort of unpack this a little bit. So, you had touched on the idea, the perception of sales. And of course, what do we all think of when we think of sales? We think of, someone with particular glasses who's really wearing a suit, who's kind of in your face. The used car salesman, pops to mind, right? And for many of us, that is what we've experienced with sales. And so we have a bad taste in our mouth based on that. But an artful sale is, what I was chatting about before, which is you have a solution to a problem that you think someone might have, and you want to see if it makes sense to work together. And if anybody who sells anything, whether they're a founder or, yeah, even a spouse, like if you're coming at it like, I want to find a solution that works for both of us, let's figure it out, then that can certainly help you to be more effective in your relationships and certainly in your sales life. But yeah, part of what I teach too is how to even get over that perception. So I position it as selling as a thinking sport. How does neuroscience help you with rejection? Because in actual sales, you will be rejected. It's just going to happen. How do you shift your mindset from sell to serve? Because that's really what we're doing. Again, providing them with that solution to their problem. If they're ready to solve it, can I help you to do that?
I love that, Shannon. And Shannon, you touched on how maybe in the beginning of COVID, life was very different. You've touched on how you sell on LinkedIn. What did your LinkedIn followers look like and sales look like pre-COVID versus today in 2026?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wasn't really on LinkedIn at that point. I had my own firm. I had big tech clients and I was focused on that. The only reason that I even got on LinkedIn was to help promote that mobile gaming app. And that was sort of at the direction of one of my mentors. He's like, "Well, who the heck are you to talk about neuroscience? Who's gonna care?" And I'm like, "That's a good point. I've got to, I guess, look into this personal brand thing." So that was never on the bingo card, but I'll just sort of do a little shout out for personal branding because if done correctly, you can have immediate sales in any business you want to start, support, or invest in. And so if you do it right, it can really be an ace in the hole for you throughout your life because it's attached to you as a person. And so it, just goes on in perpetuity.
Shannon, you're talking about personal branding. You mentioned maybe the idea where you didn't know what you didn't know. Your mentor shined a light to say, hey, you should build a personal brand. You kind of alluded to the fact that maybe you didn't have a personal brand before. Let's just say maybe you had 1,000 followers or connections on LinkedIn, let's say back in 2020. We're in 2026, you have over 54,000 followers. By LinkedIn standards, you're crushing it. You're probably top 0.1% by LinkedIn standards. Most people don't post every day, etc. There's a lot of metrics. I love the smile. So help me understand, how did you kill it in personal branding in LinkedIn? You don't have an MBA in LinkedIn. What did you do and why is it so valuable for people?
Yeah. Well, I would say for the first year, I banged my head against the wall quite a bit. I cursed. Still kind of do, especially with the latest algorithm things that they're doing with the silly algorithm right now. But it's like anything else. You have to put the time in. You have to invest in it. And, you know, I learned from people. I was humble enough to know that I did not have an MBA in LinkedIn and it was something I didn't want to give up on yet. So I wanted to figure out how the heck to do this well and stop banging my head against the wall. Because whenever you put so much energy, love, and effort into a post, and then like 5 people see it, you're like, what's the point of this, So how did I do it? I mean, you've got to invest in people who know what they're talking about. If you want to go fast and stop the head banging against the wall, there's really no shame in that. So I learned from people who understood it at the point. Of course, it's always changing every single week, every month or so, constant updates, big updates. But the main things that you can do is really understand who your ICP is. And something that I focus on is not only really understanding who they are. Of course, you've got the demographic level, but you got to know more. You got to know the values, the motivations, the pain points, what's going on in their industry right now, you got to keep yourself current on what the world looks like from their perspective. And something that I teach my clients is go deep, get into their brain. What is the unspoken subtext that they are saying right now that they're not really saying out loud? So, for instance, what would that be for solopreneurs who don't want to sell because they have the used car salesperson in their head? Could be something like, if someone wanted to hire me, they'd reach out. I'm too busy creating content to do DMs. I don't want to be pushy. So that's an example of subtext that one of my ICPs may have. It'll be different depending on what you offer and who you're after. But if you can get to the nooks and crannies of your ICP's brain and explore, it's only going to help you and it's going to help them exponentially. So that's a big part of it. Engagement is a big part of it, and not just random engagement. You've got to be targeted with it. Content is something I teach over 6 to 8 weeks. There's so much stuff that goes into content. And then finally, when you're finally in front of your prospect and you're talking with them, how does someone who has no clue about sales do that effectively to where they can have a thriving business? I know I went a little deeper there, but
No, I appreciate the
focusing
depth.
on yeah, focusing on those things has helped exponentially. And then just a super beefy anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is the tenacity part of your brain. So
I love that, Shannon. And what I would say is anytime you hear Shannon talking about ICP, what she's saying is ideal client profile. So, Shannon, in this episode, you've been going deep. You've already hit on some stuff that might be uncomfortably accurate for people. So, if you're listening to this episode and you're a solopreneur, you're in sales, you're a founder, and something Shannon said has created value for you, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We have a lot of conversations like this every week with people who are aggressively growing, people who are really good at what they do, and people who honestly can probably help you scale more efficiently. Shannon touched on it when she was touching on LinkedIn to say, hey, you have to invest in it. You have to learn from people. Those people probably sell a course or a community on LinkedIn growth, and that's probably what they're very good at. And they probably have the right proof of concept. And all of that is really important, that social proof. And you heard it from Shannon herself when she was talking to her mentor to say, hey, why would anyone listen to Shannon? Okay, I need to build out a profile and a community and my personal brand to show that I'm that good. And that's probably also why Shannon is on the podcast. But Shannon, let's ask you, why did you say yes to joining this episode?
because I like talking to people. That's why. And you look like an interesting person to talk with.
Thank you. Thank you. So a lot of what I do professionally, Shannon, is structuring investment opportunities for people, helping them invest in real estate, helping them understand how their money works to see if it's working most efficiently. For you, you probably talk to a lot of people who are in sales who identify with sales differently. What is the hardest person to work with, and what is the biggest type of transformation you've made for clients?
Hardest person, biggest transformation. Yep. Just kind of thinking. I mean, you were talking about real estate investment, and boy, that could be a whole podcast because I have some properties. And
We can talk about it now if you want. You can
uh,
answer this wherever you want to go. It's your episode. And either way,
okay,
the audience will find value.
the contractors with investing, get out of here, man, especially in Seattle, a tech city. I kid you not. So I had this contractor do work for me on one house. He did a reasonable job. So I had him out to work on
Did it?
another house.
And you did not do a
It was
reasonable job.
bad news bears big time. Like, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you But a couple weeks later, guess what he pulled up in on my island? What do you think he rolled up in? Was it a work truck? No. Was it a Prius because he wants to be conscious? No. It's a Ferrari.
Good for him. He's living the life. How many people does he employ?
I don't know. I don't know. But his work was so bad that I had to have it all redone. So
Oh
if that
man,
tells you anything,
it
it was
does.
not a good I got to the point where I said, if I see your name come across my phone or my email, we are going to court and you are so going to lose. Anyway,
Crazy. That's crazy. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Shannon. But if you don't mind,
yeah.
let's kind of dive in a little bit because it might turn into a therapy session for you, but ultimately I think it'll add value for everybody. Did you have him do the same work on two different properties? Like was it like, hey, I'm hiring him for the bathrooms, I'm hiring him for everything? What did that process look like?
So he came to me through my realtor and he painted and did like a little few repairs in the first house. And I said, okay, great. I can trust this guy, right? Because this house is on an island. I wasn't living on the island. I was like, I can trust this guy. And I had him like I bought this place. It was a cabin.
Hmm.
I should do a little tour for you, but the floors were plywood.
Okay.
The hot water heater was in the kitchen. There was no
Okay.
laundry at
Oh man.
all. The bathroom was
Hmm.
extremely scary.
Okay.
So there was a ton of work to be done. And I eventually just had it. Plus, side note, he was being extremely unprofessional and crossed the line. No, he sent me pictures that I had no interest in seeing.
Okay.
So I had it. I saw this one last kind of work. And that's, when I said, I don't want to see this coming across my phone or my email. And
Hmm.
if I do take you to court, I am going to show all of this stuff to your wife. So
Hmm.
shame on you. Anyway, I've not bought any more houses since then because it was so painful. And
Yeah.
only like, I'll have to send this to April, but my good friend now, April, was my
Hmm.
absolute lifesaver. She came in, cleaned all of his stuff, cleaned it up. We were finding issues like months later that we uncovered. So it was
I
only
believe
because
it.
of her I was able to get this thing done.
And I think, Shannon, if it's okay with you, the reason why I asked you to share your real estate experience is because this story to me is not that different from a lot of people when they try to actively invest and do it themselves. And I'm sure you had the same scenario when you talk to people about their sales process, right? When people say, hey, it's really uncomfortable to follow up with people. And it's really uncomfortable for somebody to reject me or say no or not right now or I'll get back to you. What does that mean? How pushy should I be? How much should I follow up? What is professional? What isn't professional? And it's really probably similar for people when they look at their personal finances. Maybe their business is thriving, but they have no idea how their personal finances look and their taxes are late every year. A lot of the themes are pretty similar. And that's really the point of our podcast, MyFinJourney, is to really highlight how everything is interconnected. Just like you would have an expert for like growing your brand, for growing LinkedIn, you also have an expert for investing in real estate. Single family homes, which are usually where people start, are not where people want to be when investing in real estate. They want to be in multifamily apartment complexes, but they don't know how to get started and the numbers are larger and the risk feels like more. That's all stuff, you and I can talk about offline because that's what I do professionally. But in terms of like the podcast, in terms of the listener today, it's really important to be hypercritical. It's really important to set yourself up for success. It's really important to kind of do the things that Shannon is saying, to say, hey, it takes 66 days to build a new habit. Let's do that. I want to become a real estate investor. I'm not going to jump in day one. I'm going to talk to my realtor. My realtor sells houses to home buyers. She's not the right realtor. I need a realtor who sells homes to investors. Then I need to talk to investors to see their experience. I need to talk to contractors to see their experience. I need to kind of really audit this process just like you would audit a sales cycle. Or if, the listener is a dentist, they would go look at the scans of someone's teeth before actually doing a root canal or filling a cavity. If the listener is an engineer, they would audit the whole entire process of the manufacturing line or whatever is being built. If they're a doctor, they would look at the patient history. So it's the point of these episodes and the point of experts like Shannon is to use what's helping them grow 1% and what they're very good at and apply it in your own life. So Shannon, with that in mind, for you, when you think about yourself, what do you think is the one thing that you are the best at or the one strength that you have that outshines everything else?
Yeah. Um, well, just to go back to the whole thing, I just wanted to jump it when you were
Sure.
talking about before. And the thing that people miss. So I also volunteer at some startups up here in Seattle. And the number one mistake I see founders make is that they create in a hidey hole and they don't take it out to the customer, which is called customer
Stealth.
discovery. Yeah, okay. Well, it's the same. Like you're telling people to talk to realtors and investors and things. Like you got to get out there and talk to people. You cannot build in that hidey hole and expect to be successful. So just backing up. Okay, what is my number one strength? I don't know. Maybe it's telling an inappropriate joke at an inappropriate time. I like my whole thing is life is not serious. We should be having fun doing this thing on earth, this thing called life, and levity and humor is, I think, maybe my superpower, because sometimes we all take ourselves too seriously and we forget that we're here to have an experience, to evolve, and to really just appreciate everything that we have in front of us. And I know that's kind of sentimental, but the trees, how beautiful they are, the landscape, our family, our friends, all of it. We have to just take it all in, enjoy, and enjoy. That's the main thing. We have to enjoy life.
I love that, Shannon. And Shannon, for my benefit, maybe the benefit of the listener, how do you take that levity and that, hey, let's slow down and smell the roses, let's enjoy life? How do you take that and apply that to how you've grown on LinkedIn or how you show up on LinkedIn to just keep that authenticity, which I assume is so important for you?
Yeah, it is for sure. Well, I'm probably going to bring these back. Maybe I should have been a comedian in the other life, or maybe I just have the desire to be a comedian and I'm not actually super funny. I don't know which one it is, but even some of the videos I've done are just so silly. It's like kind of a mashup, taking half of some kind of funny gif or video and then me kind of carrying it out the rest. So I think there's also a lot of serious stuff on LinkedIn, and when you have that humor you break through the noise. And so don't be afraid just to be yourself, and if you want to throw a dad joke in there, go for it.
I love it. I love it. Awesome, Shannon. No, this, uh-huh.
Sorry, I
Hit
got
us. Hit us. No, no, go
okay.
for
this
it.
one this one's actually really funny. Okay, why couldn't the art dealer pay his rent?
Give me a second. Why couldn't the art
Better not be
dealer?
googling it.
No, I'm putting in ChatGPT. Why couldn't the art dealer pay his rent? Let's see what ChatGPT says. Let's see who's funnier. Because he didn't have any monettes. Monet. Classic. Say it for the
And
audience.
it's you stole my joke. You stole it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Like a proper dad.
because he ran out of Monet. See, GPT couldn't see it like that. So, whatever.
I hear you. You're killing it. You're killing it. I think there's still time for you to be
Slaying.
yeah, you're slaying. You're fire. There's still time for you to be a comedian. You know that, right? Like I'm sure you could sell the
There's still
audience.
time.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I'm far from dead, and actually being up on that stage is nothing I really want to do. So I actually did not even want to be doing stuff like this, but this is what comes
This is
with personal,
neuroplasticity.
right? If I can do it, you can do it.
Amen. Oh, Shannon, I mean, I've loved the conversation. I think what I want to understand now, Shannon, is if somebody's listening to this, if you slayed them, if you were fire, if they loved what you had to say and they wanted to reach out to you to learn more, where would they go?
Definitely LinkedIn. You can find
You
me
can become
there.
her 60,000th follower.
Look for the Butterhood, bright pink and yellow. You can also find me at Brain Hacks by Shannon. I'm doing more of the podcast. I'm starting to do some speaking engagements, scheduling for 2026. Got some already scheduled. And yeah, just reach out, say hi. How's it going?
Beautiful, Shannon. I've loved the conversation. And what you've made clear is that selling doesn't have to feel heavy, flake, or exhausting. You can randomly bust out some jokes on a podcast to which your podcast host can ruin the jokes,
Exactly.
as any dad would do. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, back to my pre-planned outro. When you understand how your brain is wired, fear stops running the show and connections take its place. So Shannon, what I've loved about this is that these authentic types of conversations where you really understand how you want to scale, you really understand how your brain thinks, you really understand your customers needs and wants and desires, selling stops feeling like an intrusion and it starts feeling like you're genuinely creating value. And when it's from a place of authenticity, I think that's the end goal for everybody. So, Shannon, thanks for helping us break this down today and really focusing on the science behind the confidence and ultimately income. If this episode resonated, follow MyFinJourney, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend who needs to learn how to sell more efficiently, but needs to learn how to sell more efficiently on his or her terms. Look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.